Before I joined 343 and Microsoft now over 9 years ago, I actually did a bunch of work for the franchise for free. Now, I've shared my story in the past, and I'm not specifically talking about the podcast or the blogs that I wrote or any of those kind of like event activities that I also did. I'm talking about being a community cartographer. So if you don't know what this is, essentially there was this old program where there was this kind of hired group of community members who were tasked with finding and helping curate the best maps with Bungie and then 343 Industries that were made by the community to then go into kind of the broader matchmaking experience inside of the game. This started with Halo Reach and then continued with Halo 4 and then I believe it continued with some with Halo 5. But in Halo 4 is when I got involved, and this is like 2011, 2012. I did it for about a year doing this. It wasn't really a job, but I put in a ton of work and I took it very seriously. But doing this for free and not expecting a payment or anything in return, I think was one of the best investments in my time that I think I've put in. And I think it helped a lot in actually getting my job at 343. So I want to share a few important moments along there and what I took from it and how I think it helped me along the way. As part of this group of community cartographers, you were working with other creative people. We call them forgers in Halo, and they basically have these tools in the game to make their own maps. And it's a very creative and passionate job, right? These are people who are doing it out of the love of the franchise. And, they have a vision for what these maps they want them to be. And they also take it personally if people tell them their maps are not very good or if players don't really like their maps. I had to come in as a member of this group who wasn't really a forger. And, I didn't have the skill set or the passion for making maps that they did, but I still had to get stuff done. So the way it would work is Bravo at the time, who was my good friend Andy, he was leading the charge on we call sustain, which is upkeeping the maps and adding new content to the game to keep people engaged and playing. And so he would come to our group of cartographers and he would say, hey, we're building a 2v2 playlist. I need a bunch of community maps, let's say 7 to 9 maps, whatever it might be. Can you guys go, make this happen? What I quickly realized was, most, if not all of the people in the group were forgers and making their own maps. And so a lot of times they would submit their own maps for it, or they would be helping and giving critical feedback to other people, which also made those other forgers on the back foot because now it was like two creatives going at each other. So I saw myself as someone who could kind of take a different role in the group. And really, I saw myself as kind of like the lead producer. And so I would work closely with Bravo, get the list of requirements, and then I would put together a plan, get the other forgers kind of along for the ride with this plan and helping me kind of collect this, set of maps. What I learned from all this was how to work with creative people and how to give feedback on their maps the right way, how to make sure that I'm navigating things in as fair and honest way as I can. And when I talked to some forgers, they would have feedback about other people. And when I talked to these people, they would have feedback about that. And so now I'm playing like the middleman between all of these different things and trying to maintain relationships as best as I can, while also just getting the stuff that Bravo needed for the playlist. This was really helpful for me because I learned to work with creative people who are really precious and passionate about their works, and I had to relay feedback to them in a way that didn't put them on the back foot. And I'm sure, I don't remember any instances, but I'm sure I messed up along the way. But working with creatives is something I do today. I think this helped me a ton in getting my job and also being successful at my job today. So as I mentioned, I worked closely with Bravo, and he was actually on the team that I was trying to be joining afterwards. So I reached out to Jessica Shea, who was the community manager at the time, and I asked her, hey, are you guys hiring for any testing roles? And she was like, well, we don't have any testing roles, but I have this community role on my team that just opened up. And so when I applied and interviewed, Bravo was on my interview loop. And he was one of the people who was evaluating me and giving feedback and would ultimately be a person who would help decide if I was going to be getting a job or not. When it came to making the decision of do I want to be a cartographer? Do I want to put in all these hours? I would stay up till ungodly hours with Bravo. I'm talking 4 or 5 a.m. playtesting maps, making tweaks. Sometimes if there was like a deadline in 2 days, we had to get a map in, I would go into Forge and I would edit things myself. I just kind of went all in, and you know, I was gonna probably do it anyway, but it certainly helped a ton that Bravo again was one of the people that I was working closely with, because again, he had some kind of control over my fate in that regard when it came to this interview that, you know, at the time I didn't know what was going to happen. I wasn't attempting to go on the community team until all of this kind of cartographer work was done. So I was just like, you know, I saw it as a good opportunity to help the franchise and, you know, have an impact on the franchise, which is what I always wanted to do. So it ended up working out in the end. But, you know, if I hadn't, you know, taken that extra step, if I hadn't put in all that extra work, then who knows where it may have ended up. And I ended up forming a really strong relationship with Bravo. We're still great friends to this day. You know, I think a lot of this like community cartographer work was really kind of set a foundation of respect that I think Bravo has for me and what he saw in me. And ultimately he recommended that, you know, Jessica hired me for the role. So super grateful for that, and super grateful for all the experience that I had working with him on this stuff. The last thing I think was really helpful during this process was I got really valuable experience shipping a product, and it was something I could actually put on my resume that was tangible. I remember an old coworker who was, I don't want to say mentor, but I had kind of a conversation with him in kind of a mentorship setting, told me that like everyone's got a great idea, but like, what have you shipped? You know, after this cartographer thing, you know, I realized that I had stuff that I shipped. There were playlists and there were contests and all of this work that I had done that I could show and say, hey, this is a project that I worked on for some number of time. You know, that had a huge impact because I was able to show something physical and tangible that I had done, and it had my name all over it, and it had my work all over it. That goes a long way. I know when I'm kind of interviewing people today, you know, I look at the work that they shipped and the things that they did as key milestones in their career. And so for me, who again, college dropout, was working on swimming pools at the time, all I had was like, I'm a really good Halo player and like I'm passionate and stream and make YouTube videos and all this stuff. But when I did all this cartographer work for like a year, now I had like actual real work that I had done. You know, this was huge for me. And I think it was actually one of the big linchpins in why I ultimately got hired by Jessica. So the fact that I was able to like start and end projects, part of this team, delivering things for the franchise, it showed a lot and it put a lot of faith in the people in me for doing these things. And it showed to myself that like, hey, I can contribute in a positive way, because then I can go into the game and I can load up the playlist and say, hey, I remember when we made this change on this map, and like, wow, people really like this playlist, and like, you know, I put a lot of work in supporting bringing this to life. So having like an actual product out there that was shipped, that's a huge deal, especially in a AAA game like Halo. Like, that is a really big deal. So, you know, that helped me a ton, and I think in getting the job. So in the end, I'm not saying, hey, go do everything and anything for free, but ultimately I look at this stuff as a means to an end. And for me, I had been wanting to work on Halo and have an impact since I was 16. And so when it came time that, you know, I could have an impact in this unofficial way, and sure, I wasn't going to get paid for it, but I was going to put my everything into it, it was a no-brainer. And if I can go back, I would 100% do it again. Like, no question in my mind. You know, I think for some things, you kind of have to take that attitude and think about, hey, I'm investing my time and energy here. Is this a good investment? What am I going for? Is this leading me to my goal? Not everything you're going to be doing is for money, and you might have internships that are, you know, for free, or side work that you could do that you're not going to make money off of. But like, what are you kind of getting out of this? And if you're getting, you know, knowledge and experience, and that's worth it to you, and maybe that'll help you in the end, I think it's worth seriously considering. I know for me, I would 100% go back and do it again. So that's going to do it for today's video. Thanks for all the support on the channel. Be sure to leave a like and a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.